Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you as always for your tweets. Stevie, Nicol with us here in the studio. We also welcome Don with us. Not Don, it's Jan, isn't it? Jan is with us. Technical issues meant that Don's not here. Jan is in his traditional Saturday evening place in front of a hotel door.
It's a lovely studio. I mean, I'm just waiting for the day that I'm sitting in my studio and someone comes in. I hope it's not a gorgeous girl, because then I'm in trouble.
Right,
how do you cope with that all the time, Jan? I mean, when you're playing, you do it, right? Every second week, you're in a hotel.
Yeah.
And then when you stop playing, you're like, oh, thank goodness I'm not doing that.
When you were a manager for 10 years.
Well, I was, and you got fed up with it, getting on and off planes and going into hotels. He's still doing it.
Yeah, you're a bit of a homebody, Steve.
But Stevie, I stayed home in Norway now for 12 days, so why are you asking the same question as my wife? I don't understand.
She called me and asked me to have a word with you.
Stevie, what has happened to Salah? His form has dried up a bit from the start of the season. He was getting best in the world shouts, but has fallen behind Benzema, Mbappe, with even Vinny Jr. closing in on Salah's goal tally. Is it really a slump in form or just fatigue? I don't think he's been that bad, has he?
No.
I'm sure his record's been fine.
Listen, I mean, there's no question there's going to be some fatigue, particularly, you know, with playing in the Africa Cup of Nations, you know, the mental side of it as well. You know, people forget the mental side of it is just as important as the physical side. You know, because, you know, your heart and your mind drives your body, really, in my opinion. And so, the AFCON, losing the final, now you're losing the World Cup qualifier, you don't go to the World Cup, you've had so many games. So, it's kind of understandable that you can't be a superhero every time you step on the field. As long as you keep a certain level, then you don't have to be Superman every time.
Aside from a Liverpool clash, Spurs' remaining schedule seems easier to navigate than Arsenal, Stevie. Plus, they have a home game to make up against the Gunners. Shouldn't Spurs be favourites to land in the top four? Would Kane then stay, and would Conte get all the transfers he wants?
Well, I think Arsenal are favourites right now on merit. They've been the most consistent of the two teams. You know, what was it, 17 games? Spurs went winning one and losing, winning and losing.
Yeah.
It's hardly the run that medals are made of, is it? So you can't really put your hat on them. Whereas Arsenal, right now, you know what you're getting.
Right.
You're getting a solid defensive performance. You're getting good possession. And right now, they're winning games by scoring goals when it matters. So I think Arsenal deserve to be favourites. As far as Harry Kane, I'm sorry, but if Harry Kane wants to win anything, he needs to get out of Spurs as quick as possible.
Yeah, where's he going to go, though? United aren't playing in the Champions League. They're not going to win the league. Like, that's who he's been linked to, isn't it? You're not winning anything with United for a while.
Well, you might. There's a chance.
What are you going to win? The Europa League?
I'm just saying, there's a chance Manchester United to go out and spend a lot of money on players.
Well, they did that in the summer, and that went all wrong.
All right, tell me what I can say that you're not just going to throw a bucket of water on, will you? I'm just telling you that Manchester United have got the capability of turning around and spending even more money on players and maybe competing for something. Whereas with Spurs...
For what? What are they competing for?
Shut up, I don't care. Whereas the only thing I can tell you that you can't argue with is Spurs are winning nothing.
Right.
All right. Yeah, go and fill your bucket up again.
I'm just saying. For Jan, can Dortmund ever win a big game? They've lost twice to Bayern, both meetings to Leipzig, failed to advance out the Champions League group, and lost to Rangers in the Europa League.
Well, first, boys, I'm just looking at you, and I thought, and nobody told me that it was the wear your glasses day, so I put my glasses on.
There we go. Yeah.
And then I can read the question as well. But the question is good because Dortmund, I mean, they need to be lucky. They need to have some of these players staying for a while, because now they say, okay, we lose Haaland, but then we'll find a striker again. The problem if this striker would score 20 goals, he will leave. And can you imagine Jude Bellingham when he comes back for pre-season training and he has a look around in the dressing room, and you've seen his body language this season? Can you imagine when he sees, oh, well, what happened to Erling? He is gone. And the rest of the boys in the dressing room, I predict a bit of trouble with Jude Bellingham as well. He's a great attitude, but he's the next one who will be on the way out. So no, I can't see Dortmund challenge. Sorry, I have to say, if I go for a title contender for the next 3-4 years to Bayern Munich, I would say that RB Leipzig is closer.
Stevie, how difficult will it be for the Scotland national team to play the World Cup qualifier when literally the whole world will be rooting for Ukraine? For everyone, did you ever play a match where it seemed like everyone was against you, including the neutrals?
Oh, yeah.
Not against, but for.
Right.
Obviously, after Hillsborough.
Yes.
It seemed like everybody was with us.
Right.
And I'd say that drives you on, big time.
So could it have the opposite effect for Scotland?
Oh, there's no question. The Ukrainian players are. It's hard to explain that when you step on the field, the thing in the back of your mind is we can't lose because you're doing it for a special reason,
right?
Like we did, and like the Ukrainians are. So that's an incredible force that you're up against if you're playing for Scotland, because they are going to go to the edge of the cliff,
right,
and maybe even jump off if they need to in order to beat you. So that's going to be tough for Scotland, no question.
Jan?
Now, I think it's interesting because, of course, we're talking about Hillsborough, we're talking about the war in Ukraine. So, I mean, how can you compare that with other things? But I had some of that game when we, in 1993, had a chance to qualify for the World Cup, and we played England at home. And I will guess 50% of the Norwegians said, why should Norway go to a football World Cup? I mean, we hadn't been there since 1938, and we were playing England, and we just felt that and Stevie knows how many fans the English football got in Scandinavia, but that can also inspire you. And although the Ukrainian war is like it is, and everybody wants Ukraine to win, I think that the Scottish national team, they will have to think of that the people want them to win, but this is sport, we got to win that game. That should also inspire them. Do I think that Ukraine will win the song contest? They will win every contest that's been voted for, but Scotland, they're not going to be a vote, they're going to be out there. I think that's going to also inspire Scotland somehow, in some strange, funny way.
This is supposed to be for Don, but we'll give it to you, Jan. Yesterday, Stevie said England shouldn't be concerned with their group, but with a potential Scotland or Wales matchup, should they be? Both sides would love to spoil England's parade, and Scotland has improved under Steve Clarke, and Wales is a threat with Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I always say when people ask me for predictions, and they always say when you play the big teams, they say, oh, this is a difficult game. I say that is the easiest game of them all. Because and I play with a lot of like mid-tables on a good day, and when we play the big teams, then we had everything to win. We can explore ourselves, we can measure ourselves with the best players in the world, and somehow that makes it a bit easier. What's worse when you play teams that you were supposed to win against. And Scotland against England, that is nothing to do with FIFA world ranking, or Wales-England, that is nothing to do with that. That is a big, big battle. And I saw that England was some English media was so happy with their group. I said, wait a bit.
Well, of course we're happy. It's an easy group.
Hey, yeah. was that the Maggie Thatcher? Yeah, was that the Maggie Thatcher one he was talking about? Because Dan wouldn't remember that. Was that the Maggie Thatcher one?
When we won against England, that's in 1981. When he had all the names of English prominence.
Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill, Lady Diana, Lord Nelson, Maggie Thatcher. We got a message for you. "We beat you!" And he was all over the place. It's fun. And he said at the end, he said, "Your boys took a beating." He put a name in there, hell of a beating. Yeah, exactly.
I remember Scotland was quite happy that night.
I bet you were. This is a good question. Steve, you go back in time to stop one transfer, yours or another player's, which one would you stop and why?
I stopped mine to Notts County. Come on, a heartbeat.
What about the players that you saw leave Liverpool? Which was the one you were most devastated about with regards to what they gave you on the pitch? Because there was such a big turnover there, wasn't there, at the end of the 80s?
Yeah. I mean, the problem was the team was struggling at the time. And there was a lot of the changes had to be made.
Right.
Because of the new. So to play in Europe, you could only use three players that were from outside of England.
Yeah.
So people like Ray Houghton and Steve Staunton. I mean, the club had no choice but to have to let them go. So that was disappointing. But there was nobody. I mean, generally when players left their team, it was because they were past their best.
Right.
And everybody kind of accepts it and just thinks about how great they were when they were at their best.
Right.
So there wasn't really, it wasn't coming in and all of a sudden John Barnes had signed for Inter Milan or something where you're going, holy smoke, what are we going to do now? Barnes is just like,
yeah.
There wasn't, I don't remember anything like that.
When Rushy went to Juventus, there wasn't like a...
When John Aldridge scored the goals.
Well, well. But again, we all knew he was going though.
Right.
And again, the culture at Liverpool wasn't about one player either as well. So when somebody like that's gone, there's still the rest of us here.
Sure.
And they're going to buy somebody.
Right.
As much as you're disappointed, you don't want them to go.
Yeah.
But it's not that kind of reaction because of the culture. I would imagine you'd be better asking somebody who played at, I don't know, Sheffield Wednesday, for example, a guy like David Hurst, who before he did his knee was on the radar of every single team.
Right.
Every single team.
Well, if you look at
that would be if I was playing for Sheffield Wednesday and you're trying to get better and you turn up one day and all of a sudden you find out the club sold him to Man United,
right.
Then you're like, oh, that's the rest of us knackered because he's a huge part of it.
Well, in Martin's documentary about Galacticos, obviously he interviews a lot of the players, and a lot of them cite when Makelele went, they thought, what on earth's going on? Because there was nobody coming in as protection. They were losing the centre backs as well.
It just must have been our culture, Dan, because we never did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Jan?
I got two examples, and I'll use one of a fellow friend of ours, Stevie Nicol. But both names, I imagine. But Nigel Spackman was the manager of Sheffield United.
Yeah.
And he was having two players up front, myself and Brian Dean. And he was driving home from London, and then someone called him and said, we just sold your two strikers. I went to Barnsley in the Premiership, and Dino went to Benfica. And I think it is a good point that you're doing that. I think that it's more for lower clubs. If you have some players that score goals for you, or that could be stopped. And the terms of Liverpool, they will expect to lose then and again some good players. But I got from my childhood, I was a Leeds United supporter. In the mid-70s, we were always competing with Liverpool, and we thought that Leeds will one day be better than Liverpool. And then when Kevin Keegan went to German football, we all thought, thank God he's gone. Liverpool will be average. And then they signed this guy from Celtic called Kenny Dalglish, and I was 12 years or whatever. I was crying because he was even better than Kevin Keegan. I couldn't believe it.
For all, did you ever have a teammate that you had an awful first impression with who actually turned out to be a good mate?
Yeah, I got one.
Go on, Jan.
I played with Andy Mutch at Swindon. Andy Mutch was a striker who played with Steve Bull in Wolverhampton. And he came to Swindon, and I was struggling. I was not scoring goals. And he kind of pointed in all directions. He wanted me to do this and that and everything. And I was so mad at him. And I said to my wife, tomorrow in training, I'm going to kick him straight down. I'm going to hammer him.
Wow.
He's gone. And she said, don't do that. And okay, I will. And we played 6 against 6. And he came past me and I kicked him once. On his way down, I kicked him again. And then this guy pretty much stood up and did like this. Well done, Jan. That's the attitude I want from you. And since then, he was a great, great mate.
Wow, footballers, you're weird. Stevie?
Well, there was one that didn't start off great, and it certainly didn't get any better. A guy...
Well, that's not the question, Stevie. It's not who did you hate?
well, it started awful, but it certainly didn't turn out a good mate.
Right, okay.
You know, when I left Liverpool and went to Notts County were being relegated.
Okay.
And the plan was to bring them back up the next season.
Right.
And of course, the owner of the club at the time had promised not all of it, but a lot of the players more money and cars and all kinds of things.
Right.
And then, of course, when they signed, it just went like that. Custard pie. So
I never said that.
So, of course, the dressing room was full of guys that were just
angry.
Angry. And then the owner started cutting the towels in half. They used to have these big, huge bath towels. And he's like, well, we don't need all these. We don't need to buy new towels. We can just cut these in half. And he cut some of them in half. It was serious. So the place, nobody
just
liked
toxic,
being there.
Yeah.
It was very toxic. But it was a guy called Nicol Jameson, who I understood why he wasn't happy.
Okay.
And he certainly made it known every single day he came in. And I thought, I understand if you've been offered a lot more money or whatever it is. But then the following season, when we came back in, he started again. And you talk about somebody who you would love to just, as Jan said with Andy Much, just start kicking lumps out of them.
Okay.
But that just isn't the way to do it.
Right.
Oh,
I don't feel there's the ending of then we became best friends.
No, I couldn't.
Did you ever call him out on it?
I couldn't. But yeah, the only way to shut somebody like him up is to put one on them.
Right.
Or, as I say, half them in 2 in training.
Wow.
But that's not the right way to. That's demeaning yourself.
Sure.
It's one thing to kick somebody you respect, but to do it for that reason is just not the right way. Yeah, I couldn't stand the guy.
Stevie is the only one who will get a question. Did you start bad with a guy and become friends to tell a good story about a guy he met he didn't like and he liked him even less afterwards?
Yeah.
Fantastic answer.
And on that note, lovely, friendly, happy, sunshine and rainbows. ESPN FC is back on your screens tomorrow. Shaka will be here. Shaka's friends with everyone. We'll be reflecting on, of course, the big game in La Liga, Barca against Sevilla. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and of course, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.